Hi everyone, welcome to Timari's World. For today's video, it's going to be a little different because I really just want to share things that I'm interested in on this channel. I have a lot of different special interests and things that I just want to share that I have a lot of information on that I could talk about for forever. One of those things is art and color theory and artists. I love art and things to do with art. So this is going to be an art history style kind of video. I really like watching Brittany Broski's videos that she makes over like the art history and all of that. So it's going to be similar to one of those. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoy this video. Let's get into it. The artist that I'm going to be talking about today is Frida Kahlo, right there on the wall. So Frida Kahlo was born Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderon on July 6, 1907. It's important to know her background. Her dad was born in Germany with a more Jewish background, and her mother was primarily of indigenous and Spanish descent. So she kind of has two worlds colliding when it comes to her. Frida Kahlo was the third daughter out of four, and she says that she grew up in a world surrounded by females, which I think shows a lot in her work. A lot of her paintings include nude images of women or, you know, things of that nature, and I think it just really tells in her work. There would be times where she would lie about the year that she was born in. She was born in 1907. She would tell some people that she was born in 1910 because this was the year of the start of the Mexican Revolution. Frida Kahlo is a Mexican artist, so she is very strong about her Mexican heritage, and we love to see it. She's very expressive and proud of being Mexican, and it shows tremendously in her work. Frida Kahlo did not have a very lucky life, I would say, in terms of health. At the age of 6, she contracted polio, and it caused her right leg to be a lot thinner than her left leg. She covered her legs up by wearing long and traditionally Mexican skirts, which are definitely a Frida Kahlo staple, and they're also painted in some of her paintings and a lot of her work. She wore them a lot. She also often dressed in men's suits, and she did not conduct herself the way most people thought a young woman should. She tended to act a little more masculinely at times, wearing suits, just not really caring. And I love her for that. She was someone who knew who she was and didn't let other people influence who she was, and I love that. In 1925, when she was 18 years old, she was in a tragic bus accident. She shattered her pelvis, and she had a metal rod through the middle of her body, like literally impaling the middle of her body. Before the accident happened, she was on track to be a doctor, and she studied medicine in school. But after the accident, she was bedridden, and she was in a full body cast and spent many of her days lying down in her bed. She used painting to express the immense pain and loneliness that she felt during this time. Her parents propped up a mirror on her bed that allowed her to see herself and paint the self-portraits that she is widely known for. In 1926, a year after the accident happened, she painted her portrait in a velvet dress that shows the major changes that she was going through at this time. She says, "I paint myself because I am often alone, and I am the subject I know best." Frida was known for painting her emotions, which at the time was something that was very controversial for women to do. As we know in history, women have not been allowed to do a lot of things, and I'm grateful to be born in this time where I feel like women have a lot more rights and can do a lot more things than would have been accepted at least like 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we still have ways to go, but it was just a very different time. This portrait is one of the first times that she portrayed herself on canvas with her very prominent unibrow, which is something that most people recognize Frida Kahlo for, and I personally think that it looks very beautiful on her face. Look at her. The tragic bus accident caused Frida to be infertile, and later in life she experienced multiple miscarriages that she had to carry to term, knowing that they were stillborn, which obviously, as anybody can imagine, brought lots of pain into her life. It hurt her so much, and she made a lot of paintings about it, which I know I'm talking a lot about the paintings. We will get into so many of my favorite paintings at the end. Wait for it. Now, we cannot talk about Frida Kahlo without discussing her relationship with Diego Rivera. At the time, Diego was a very prominent and famous Mexican painter and muralist. Frida approached Diego as a young artist looking for advice about pursuing art as a career. She would show him her paintings and ask for advice and ask for, is this good enough to be sold? Do you think I'll make money off of this? That type of thing. He immediately recognized her talent as truly special and uniquely Mexican. They were married in 1929, which was a controversial marriage because Diego was 20 years older than Frida Kahlo. Her parents didn't approve, but Frida didn't care. She was in love with Diego and was on the brink of what would become one of the most tumultuous relationships and marriages to ever exist. To get into a little zodiac background, Frida was a water sign, Diego was a fire sign. We should know how that goes. They both had very fiery tendencies and were very outright about their feelings and emotions, as a lot of artists are, I feel like. Diego was unfaithful as ever. He had many affairs with many other women, including Christina, Frida Kahlo's sister. He cheated on her with her own sister. Yeah, very interesting. Now, Frida would respond by having affairs as well, but not just with men. Oh no, Frida was having affairs with women. And on top of that, a lot of the women were these same women that Diego had cheated on her with. So she was like, oh, who can play at this game? She was like, you know what? You think you gonna cheat on me with her? I'm gonna cheat on you with her too. What? But on a real note, Diego's affairs destroyed Frida. She would feel so alone and abandoned by him, and it showed greatly in her art. She's quoted saying, "There have been two great accidents in my life. One was the trolley, and the other was Diego. Diego was by far the worst. Worse than a metal rod being impaled through her body." Crazy. Now, there's been some talk online about Frida dressing herself in a more masculine way or painting herself with more strong and prominent features. And some say that she portrayed herself this way when she felt ugly because of Diego. However, in my opinion, I see a lot of the masculinity and the strong portrayals of herself to be expressive of her sexuality. Frida Kahlo is a bisexual woman. Even when she was a young child, she was wearing men's suits. She was kind of been somewhere in the middle, you know what I'm saying? And she doesn't really care about gender norms, things like that. So to me, seeing her painting herself in these suits and with these strong prominent features and things like that after Diego has had his affairs in their marriage, to me, it shows her reclaiming her power. It's her saying, oh, you think that since you're the man, you can do this, you can get away with it, baby. I can do the same thing you can do, and I can do it better. So to me, that's the vibe that I get from it. People see it differently. Maybe I'm just gay, and that's how I see it, but I don't know. Diego Rivera wrote that the day that Frida died was the most tragic day of his life. And he realized too late that the most wonderful part of his life had been his love for Frida Kahlo. It's kind of like you don't really know what you have until it's gone. It's definitely the truth in the case of Diego Rivera. He did not know what he had with Frida Kahlo until she was gone, and it was like, whoa. Now, to shift gears a little bit, what a lot of people don't know about Frida Kahlo is that she had very strong political views, specifically tied to communism and socialism. At the age of 16, she was a part of the youth group of the Mexican Communist Party, where she wrote and gave speeches, attended meetings, and led union rallies. She campaigned for peace against the United States after they initiated the Cold War. It is well known that one of Frida's affairs was with Leon Trotsky, a known communist that sought political sanctuary in Mexico from Stalin's regime in the Soviet Union. She lived in the United States for a brief period of time during the Great Depression. Like I said, she's primarily lived in Mexico, so she was kind of rendezvousing around the United States, going on little trips and things after Diego was doing whatever he was doing. I feel like the time periods of art and artists, it matters so much. Things that are going on in real life definitely influence the art that is being made 100%. And at this time that she lived in the United States, it was during the period of the Great Depression and the Jim Crow laws in 1930 to 1933, which many Americans and people all over the world know this was not a very good time to be a minority or poor in America at all. But then again, when has it ever been a good time for any of that? Anyways, moving on. Frida Kahlo called the United States Gringolandia. When visiting Detroit, she became very aware of the city's widespread poverty, hunger, and blatant racism. She called it absolutely medieval, which I don't think that was very far from the truth at all. A direct quote from her after seeing life in America is as follows: "High society here turns me off, and I feel a bit of rage against all of these rich guys here, since I've seen thousands of people in the most terrible misery, without anything to eat and with no place to sleep. That is what most impressed me here. It is terrifying to see the rich having parties day and night, while thousands and thousands of people are dying of hunger." Which is something that we still see to this very day. Millions are suffering homeless with no place to go or no one willing to help them. While the top 1%, including the president with all the money in this country, spend it all on investments to make themselves more money while tweeting their thoughts and prayers to the less fortunate online. 11 days before her death, she was still participating in protests while in a wheelchair, literally in a wheelchair at a protest, against the United States intervention in Guatemala. Now, with all this talk about communism, I find it imperative that you understand what communism really is and what it was designed to be. What Karl Marx designed communism to be in 1948 is not what communism came to be when it was put into action in countries like Russia and North Korea. Communism was designed to be a society that has no class divisions, government, or personal property. It is a society where the production and distribution of goods is based on from each according to his ability and according to his needs. Meaning you get what you need and you don't get any more, and everybody gets what they need. There's some for everyone, pretty much. Being American, communism is so demonized. Even saying the word communism or being suspected of being a communist is a terrible thing. You'd be shaking in your boots. You have the Secret Service knocking at your front door. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been so demonized in the American education system. It always has a negative connotation to it. Most of this is because of how it was implemented in Stalin's Soviet Union, which the United States fought against in the Cold War. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a communist by any means. I'm not saying that I support communism. Okay, let's not get out of hand with that. I just don't believe that the idea of communism should be blamed for the corrupt leaders that try to implement it in other countries. Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, it didn't have any instructions for how to implement communism into society, which in my opinion is a big reason for why it doesn't work and why it's never worked, even though it sounds like it wouldn't be a terrible idea. But the main idea of communism was to just give everyone equal opportunity in goods so that there wasn't any gap between the top 1%, which Karl Marx called the bourgeois, and the working class, which was called the proletariat. I think, to be honest, like, as an idea, it doesn't sound too bad. The way that it's implemented has its problems, but I believe that this is why Frida Kahlo was such a big believer in communism and Mexican communism, because it sounded like a good idea. Now for the good part, the fun part, to finally discuss her work and paintings. Frida Kahlo's art really speaks to my soul in ways that I cannot describe. I don't know when I found Frida Kahlo. It had to be about 7 years ago, like for real, when I was young, coming to terms with my sexuality, figuring out what that means for me. And I found Frida Kahlo and I loved her. The amount of emotion that she puts into her art and the symbolism that she uses through animals or different figures is very admirable to me as an artist myself. She had a very spiritual nature about her, finding meaning in the mundane and simple things in life. Some of her spiritual quotes that I love are, "Fall in love with yourself, with life, and then whoever you want." Which I love that one for obvious reasons. "Everything is all in one. Anguish and pain, pleasure and death are no more than a process of existence." Deep. Okay. She found beauty in her life, even living with chronic pain and loneliness since childhood. She speaks for the powerful women who feel undervalued and like they have to fit themselves in a little box to become this perfect woman that men have created. And that is why I admire her so much. Like I said, she is very well known for her self-portraits, and of her 143 paintings that she completed in her lifetime, 55 of them are self-portraits. During her lifetime, she actually did not sell many paintings at all. She was known as Diego's wife, which is annoying as but okay. She was way better than him, but anyways. Today, her work sells for millions of dollars and she is popular worldwide, with Diego now being known as Frida Kahlo's husband, as it should be. In 1932, Frida painted Henry Ford Hospital, which shows herself lying on a hospital bed, naked with blood around her. This painting reflects the immense sadness and pain that Frida felt while having a miscarriage and having to deliver a stillborn child. The 6 objects she's tied to are an orthopedic spinal cast, a male fetus, a snail to represent the slowness of the operation, a surgical machine, an orchid that Diego gave her, and a pelvic bone. The red string is indicative of an umbilical cord. This painting is an example of the symbolism that I was talking about. She uses these figures in order to represent these abstract ideas of things that she's going through and relates it to her experiences in ways that at first glance you wouldn't know that the snail was representing how slow it went. You know, you kind of have to think about it and have to decipher what does she mean by this. And that's something that I love about art. In 1937, she painted Memory the Heart after Diego's affair with Frida's sister, Christina. If you notice Frida in the middle, she has no arms, showing how helpless she felt after the affair. And there is a metal rod through the hole where her heart should be. There are 2 small cupids seesawing on the rod, which you can't really see the one in the back, but the one in the front is very visible. And it indicates the pain and heartbrokenness that she felt. And to me, it's like Cupid's kind of like playing with her heart. You know what I'm saying? That's what it feels like to me. Because of her love with Diego, she feels like, you know, why am I so in love with this man? And he's kind of playing with me, and you know, it's a heartbrokenness type of feeling. To add on to the heartbrokenness, we see the heart on the shore with the blood washing away into the water. Now, the outfit that's on the left is a traditional schoolgirl outfit that Frida Kahlo wore, and it represents her innocence as a young girl. The outfit on the left is a more traditional Mexican dress that Frida often wore, and that Diego loved to see her wearing. Her in the middle, she's wearing a European style dress, which was her favorite to wear when she was separated from Diego, because he loved the Mexican style dresses. She was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to the European style ones because you love the Mexican ones. She also has cropped hair and tears streaming from her face, both representing sadness for Frida Kahlo. Her face shows her resilience even though she has tears streaming down her face, and that is a prominent feature of a lot of her paintings. Frida painted the broken column in 1944, shortly after she had spinal surgery after the bus accident. Frida often painted images with nude women, including herself, which to me reclaimed the power and beauty in the art that is a woman's body. This painting shows herself with a bunch of nails all throughout her skin and a metal column where her spine should be. In 1939, Frida painted The Two Fridas. It shows one Frida wearing a traditional Mexican outfit to represent the Frida that Diego loved. The other Frida is dressed in a European-style dress to represent the woman Diego betrayed and rejected. The two are holding hands, which show that Frida is her own #1 best friend and comforter through life. In 1939, she also painted this very beautiful scene in 2 nudes and a forest, which to me is very gay. Very gay. Now, some people say that it isn't, and it shows Frida's duality through the 2 women, as one seems to be more of a European background and the other one is more Mexican and Native American background. To me, this gives major "and they were roommates" vibes. Like, this is very gay. This looks very gay to me. Sorry. And to add to that, this painting was a gift to Frida's intimate girlfriend, Dolores Del Rio, which to me emphasizes how gay this painting feels to me. I think it's very beautiful, and it adds to what I was saying about how she uses the nude female body in a way that is it's beautiful and sensual, and that's something that I really love in art. In 1940, Frida painted the self-portrait with cropped hair, showing her after she cut the hair that Diego loved so much. The lyrics at the top of the painting read like this in English: "See, if I loved you, it was for your hair. Now you're bald. I don't love you anymore." Diego was infatuated with Frida's very long hair and loved it when she wore her hair down. She's also wearing a suit in this painting, and I feel like her eyebrows, her unibrow is a little bit more bushy, and to me it represents just her saying she doesn't need a man to tell her her place in life. It's her desire to be independent, to be on her own as a woman, and not feel tied to what a man thinks of her or what a man says her value is. Period. Also in 1940, Frida painted "The Dream, the Bed," which she called an amusing reminder of people's mortality. The skeleton above the bed is laced with explosives to represent the idea that death can happen at any time. This painting is very interesting to me because death, as some of you may know, death is something that I think about very often, and I have dreams about it. In my dreams, I'm running from escaping death. To me, this painting, it shows, it makes me feel a lot of things. The explosives on the skeleton, the way that the skeleton is resting its head and lying above the bed where Frida Kahlo lays covered in leaves, and she looks like she's having the best sleep of her life, gives me a death is around the corner kind of vibe. You never know what's gonna happen. In the background even, it gives a sense of despair. There's no horizon on there. It's kind of just out in the open, and it's just this sense of despair, the sense of loneliness that death kind of makes you feel. The last painting I'll be talking about is the Love Embrace of the Universe that Frida painted in 1949, just 5 years before Frida's death. The painting depicts Diego as Frida's child. It represents the motherly instinct that Frida felt for Diego. She kind of used this instinct during the affairs that Diego would have to separate herself from the feelings of sadness and loneliness of being in the relationship and kind of place her in a more motherly role for Diego in order to see it that way and to try to help him through whatever urges that he was dealing with in a motherly way. And to me, I think that's very interesting, and it's very representative of the things that you do for people that you love. All of the plants and her little dog at the bottom, and the hands that wrap around the two of them, and the statue in the back. It is very indicative of the universe. And the reason that Diego has a third eye on his forehead is because Frida believed that Diego had a very spiritual and poetic way about viewing life and viewing the world, and he would kind of use these metaphoric type poetic things to speak to her, and they understood each other in that way. When looking at Frida Kahlo's style of painting, many have labeled her as a surrealist artist. Surrealism is a type of art that typically expresses very dreamlike, fantasy type images that explore the subconscious mind. Frida initially rejected this label, saying that she painted her reality. But I think one thing is for certain, that the reality of Frida Kahlo being a very kind of neurotic, free-spirited woman that just kind of wants to see the world in perfect harmony, but is capable of suffering through the fact that it may never truly occur and become reality, is something that many of us, including myself, can relate to. Please let me know if y'all enjoy these styles of videos, these educational, informative little videos, because I really liked making this video and I like doing the research for it and everything. So just let me know. I love y'all so much. Thank you so much for watching this video, hearing me talk about one of my favorite artists ever. Yeah, Thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all in next week's video. Bye!